Welcome, Stewie, to the Better Blokes Project podcast. We'll kick off with your one percenter and what you think everyone can do to make themselves a little bit better every day and what you do.
Well, not real sure what I do every day. I do have a regime that I stick to pretty strictly every day. It's a 4:30 get up every morning. That's during the week. Head to the gym, back home by 6, and that's when your day starts. So it just gives me clarity, I suppose, for the start of my day. I love the regiment of it. I love the atmosphere at the gym. It's a mixed gym. The people that run it are amazing. You can reach out to them if you need a bit of help in any area or whatever it be. But personally, I just go to because it's the one place that doesn't talk farm. We farm, so everyone that turns up or anything that we go to do every day revolves around farming, and it gets a bit thick after a while. So personally for myself, the gym is my little get out, I suppose, for that half an hour, 3/4 of an hour every morning where I can come home with clearer clarity. It starts my day better. Probably just starts Chelsea's day better. She gets a cup of tea in bed every morning. So, yeah, that's just what I do personally.
No, it's a really good point to move on from, and having is it the physical exercise or is it just an activity in the morning to start your day? If you haven't got the gym, have you got?
There's probably a couple of things with it. I've always been involved in sport all my life. There comes a point when you get a little bit too old to contribute into a team environment, and that hurts when you realise that you no longer can do it. So the gym for me was that form of exercise that it's a funny thing. It sends off, I don't know, a feel-good energy, something that you're probably proud of yourself for doing every morning. While you're there, you're probably thinking, what am I doing? This is shit. But then that self-pride when you walk out the door knowing full well that you've just, completed exercises that you would not have thought you could do, and the progression along the journey for most people, and I'll probably get more satisfaction out of training alongside of someone who just improves themselves day in, day out. And, today they might have lifted 15 kilos and tomorrow they're gonna hit 17 or something. And you sort of feel a bit of pride because then you're right beside that person day in, day out. Not that we get put into groups, but you have your training partners, I suppose, along the guys or the girls that you tend to lean towards and someone that will challenge you personally. So that's how our little gym that we go to is set up. Yep. Yeah, and you get put in your little groups and we test each other. And as a male, there's always that competition. It's a hidden competition, but it's underneath there. So if I see someone lift 20, I'm doing 25. Yeah. It's just a little, in your own little head. And there's a bit of rivalry amongst it. There's a bit of,
banter.
A bit of banter and it's great, So we have everyone from every walk of life there, which is, you don't talk farm. It's simple.
Yeah. And on that, so a bit more about yourself and, you mentioned Chelsea. There'll be some kids there too, I assume. I know there is. And and the farm. So, just give us a quick spiel about that.
From early on. Yeah. So I grew up in Rihanna for the first 12 years of my life. Attended school on the other side of the dial. Used to hate this side. It was just so much rivalry to this side of the dial. And then I suppose when I was 12, we moved to Penguin and where I attended Penguin High. And then pretty much straight into the workforce. So diesel mechanic by trade, and didn't overly enjoy that side of it, but now I'm so grateful that I've done it with what we do now on farm and at home. Then I suppose as the journey goes, my heart just lied in farming. I was from farming families, grandparents, parents, and it's just in you. And then I got an opportunity. After I finished my mechanicking, I went and worked for TAFE for a couple of years until they shut that down as a commercial farm, and then moved on to currently where I'm at right now and leasing pretty productive property off Jim Allen and his family.
Tell us a little bit about farming, mate. Like, you hear a lot about how hard it is for people to get into. How did you find that challenge?
Yeah, it is tough. It's only getting harder. The price of land to start with is pretty much out of the reaches of anyone now. Like, so you see a lot of, I suppose, what do you call, superannuation companies and that forming and buying up properties for astronomical prices. It's launched that hard that your returns are just not going to cover your interest rates, let alone any capital on the farm. Price of machinery has skyrocketed in the last probably 2 years. We know that hard. Like we've invested heavily into machinery. We run a contracting business along with farming. We do it. We try to change machinery over regularly and keep updated, but that comes at a humongous cost and probably a bit of pressure as well. Luckily enough, I've got a young guy who's worked with us for quite some time. He's amazing. He's the cog in the gearbox that just keeps us rolling. And then our son Jack has just come on board as an apprentice, and he already has served his apprenticeship from probably the age of 5 to 7. Yeah. So now I've got this 17-year-old.
Child labour.
Yeah. I've got this 17-year-old who is just like having a qualified operator that can wheel machinery like no other. And that's taken the pressure completely off me now, which I love because I just want to stay on farm. And then, the boys can just
go out and do the stuff.
Yes,
just do the work.
Get it done, yeah. And they, they're highly regarded in the community. And our clients that we work for, they love them. They actually specifically ask for them guys now. So,
yeah, good.
Which is a good feeling.
Yeah, definitely, especially when one of them's yours.
Yes, well, and once again, there's been quite a lot of influences around that, I suppose. Like, most sons and fathers probably don't listen to each other greatly, but luckily enough, like Jack and I have a great relationship. We have two totally different personalities, but have never had a word with each other, not once. Where my other son, like, we've got spitting identities, and we clash. He frustrates the shit out of me. Absolute amazing kid who is just so relaxed and has the greatest outlook on life, and nothing worries him, which is me. And I think that's why we clash, is because he's so relaxed and I'm so relaxed, and it's just this.
It's pretty funny. Martin, back in season 1, spoke about you get most frustrated with those that are so similar to yourself that you see yourself in them, and it sort of stands true. My next question for you, mate, like you hear so much about so many people that are in farming talk about how hard like farming is. I'm not a farmer. I don't think any of the other gents here are either, but it would be really good to hear from you, mate. Like what's a standard day look like for you? Like I know you said you get up at 4:30 to go to the gym, but what's the rest of your day look like?
Yep, well, it can change with a phone call pretty quickly. So, and even when we're under immense pressure, I suppose, like our season starts now. We've started drilling as of today. So we've put peas in today. We'll be busy now right through to probably end of April into May, maybe middle of May with potatoes. But we're talking probably anywhere from 12 to 18 hour days consistently, 7 days a week. Which, and that's working. My day can be an 18 to 20 hour day some days and more. I have pulled a few all-nighters, but I try not to do it too much. Like it wrecks you. It's like having the worst hangover ever.
How do you manage I know we've had it a few times on the podcast already. A few chaps have spoken a little bit about burnout. How do you sort of manage that?
Don't stop. You only burn out when you stop. And it's true. If we have this run of weather where you can just keep working day in, day out, and it's routine, and it is routine through most of the growing season, where, we're irrigating, we're spraying, we're crop management, and then we do baling, silage and hay, and that adds, a fair bit of pressure to things because you can have up to 50 to 60 phone calls in a day. And then if you happen to have a wet day, if rain comes and shuts you down for the day, it's the worst thing that can happen, like because you stop and it's so hard to get going again, where if you can just keep momentum rolling day in, day out, it's so much easier to manage because then you've got to try and play catch up. And quite often that's when it'll burn you out, is when you're trying to play catch up because the days are extended because you've got 4 or 5 clients that you're still going to try and pick up in that same window that you've just missed that wet day for.
It's pretty scary to think how many hours you really do on the farm, isn't it? Like, I'll say I have a big week and I've done 50 hours at the shop, and you're 50 hours, you've racked that up Wednesday afternoon.
Yeah, and look, I don't keep a track of my hours, but the young guy that works with us, I know there for 7 weeks straight, he worked something like 97 hours weekly for 7 weeks straight, and I know if he was doing 97, I was doing 107. And we try. Look, it's just the way it is. I didn't, we don't publicise the fact that we're working that many hours. Like we'd probably get shut down. But if something happened, we'd definitely get shut down. With the change to everything now, rules and regulations, and having Jack on board now takes that pressure away from both of us. You've got that extra body that can just wheel, in beside you, and what we can get done now is phenomenal in a day.
How do you go in those times when you are doing those big hours if you can't get to the gym?
I still go.
You just go?
I just go, yep. Yeah. I know Chelsea snapped her Achilles a couple of years ago, and that was a fairly late night in at the hospital, and we never got home until something like 3 o'clock in the morning. But I still managed to go at 4:30. It was it's one of those things, like you still wake up, regardless of what time I go to bed, I still wake up at 4:30. Yeah. And I don't know why. It's just an inbuilt alarm clock. It just, and it's not a struggle. I don't lay in bed. I've never laid in bed. As soon as I wake, I'm up. And I've done that ever since I can remember.
Yeah. You said about like the club sort of being around one and how that can sort of help too. I mean, you're, 45 now, I reckon, by the look of you, maybe 43.
46.
But like, you're not going to be able to go to the gym forever. Well, you probably could, I suppose, but is there something else that you think you can sort of still get that escape from? And
football. I'm still involved with football. And footy's been a massive part of my life. I've played since I can remember. I've loved, probably looking back on it, I never used to love training. Well, I thought I didn't. And then all of a sudden you get to a certain age and kids come along, and it was a little outing. Regardless of what your day had been, you get to training and you're with 30, 40 blokes that are all your mates, and you're not thinking about one thing that happened through the day or what had just happened at home, and that comes with a bit of grief at times too, because you've worked all day, mum's home with the kids, and then you're running in the door and back out the door with your footy bag, and that becomes a bit of a sort of, a sour topic, I suppose. And looking back on, Chelsea was on her own for quite some time of the earlier years of the boys, and you try to contribute, but then, and it seems selfish. It's bloody selfish looking back on it. Like I had football 2 nights a week, played on a Saturday, and generally trained on a Sunday morning, sorry. So, looking back at it, Chelsea was on her own with, these 2 little humans that were causing grief to her and her outside world, and luckily enough, her family, they're very close, and they all chip in and do whatnot. But, Chelsea end up involving herself with the football, and the boys end up growing up in that environment, and they're both playing now. And I'm not sure if that's been because they've been brought up in that environment or whether they love it, or Jack did say to me once, I don't even like fucking football. I just happen to be good at it, and that was when he was 12, and things have probably changed a bit now. Yeah, you said in there about feeling guilty in that times of when you're sort of putting yourself forward over the family. I think a lot of blokes out there would get that feeling. I know at the moment I've just started a new job and I'm working away, so I've got the ability to now go to the gym and shoot hoops with the boys and play. And I went to the gym twice. It's a pretty good effort.
proud of that.
That was in the morning. Yeah, it doesn't show you.
4:30 that was.
I thought you
keep up the good work.
That was 6. It's pretty good. But that's made a massive difference for me just on those days that I have gone, like you can stay focused and stuff better during the day. And it's something that, we've got 2 little humans, 4 and 2, nearly 5 and 3, I suppose. But those years I've probably tried to spend with them for that early days, and then now I've got that opportunity to go and put that forward. So it's interesting that you seen that as being, you feel guilty as well, because that is definitely a feel that I think a lot of people would have.
Yeah, and as a bloke, it's hard to, you walk in the door and the kids are probably screaming and mum's screaming at you as well, sort of where have you been and where are you going, and you're never home, and all you do is work and football, and I suppose, and it was right, and it hurts to hear it, but then for your own sanity sometimes, to be a better person when you do get home, because you could have had the weight of the world on your shoulders, but you was never going to share it, because as a male, we would probably, especially my generation, you was, boys don't cry, boys don't share their emotions, boys don't, it was just the way we were brought up. You don't tell anyone you love them. Like, it's just, you know, but you don't say it. So I suppose just getting away for that bit of clarity with your mates, playing football in a team environment, you might have had a bit of a bitch and moan to one of your better mates and said, oh, God, she was in a shit mood tonight when I got home. She was barking at me. But, when you got home after that, you were probably a better person yourself. Whereas if you'd stayed and fired a few bullets back that in direction, it starts a shitstorm that you can't stop sometimes.
Probably sleep on the couch, aren't you?
Yeah, well, that's the other side. Yeah, I actually can say I've never slept on the couch. And there's been some moments naturally I believe that every couple probably goes through it, because all of a sudden, you're a couple and you're probably dating, and then you marry and there's still only the 2 of yous, and then you have kids, and that's when the pressure comes on, because all of a sudden you're not number one anymore.
So you fucking flips it.
Yeah, and the dog's in front of you. Even, you just feel like that the dog gets more pats and cuddles than what you do. And, but it's a journey and it's a ride, and, quite often I sort of believe, you marry for, forever do us part, or whatever the words are. But on the other side of that too, though, I've always had that, Chelsea's always known that if at any time it's got too thick for her, just let me know. And if you don't want to be here, look, I'm not forcing you to stay, and I won't be rough. As in I won't cause grief, because I can understand, she's followed me in my passion of farming, and she had a life. She was, luckily enough, she was a farm girl, but she's come on the same journey, on my journey, I suppose, is what it's at. And to be fair, there's got to be a bit of give from me as well on that respect.
Yeah. Yeah, I think you're right in you come home from whatever you do throughout the day, and if you don't take that time and invest that in yourself, they don't get the best part of the best version of you when you get home. It's exactly that snippy firing bullets and grenades from the trenches sort of thing, isn't it?
Yep. The best thing we probably done was move to the farm for our whole family. At the time it probably wasn't, looking at it, you think, you're never going to be inside. But the boys spent so much time outside, just, not that they were helping me, because they're probably too young to help, but they were with you, which gave Chelsea her little bit of space that she needed, to go and spend a bit of time with her sisters. She's got 2 sisters live in town here, and her mum and dad live in town, and her grandma lives in town. And a funny story, I come home one day and she was firing bullets at me, and anyway, she'd got a bit thick, and anyway, she jumped in the car and took off, and went down and visited her grandma, and Grandma growled her and told her to go home.
Set her straight.
Yeah, set her straight, and just said, look, Chelsea, you're being a bit over. But, but to Chelsea's defence, I was never home, and she never had that time that I suppose I had, because she followed me to football with the boys, and it was, I'd stay and have a beer, and Chelsea did too, but she always had to be home by 7:30 because that was bedtime. Whereas, I don't know. I suppose looking back at it, I could have done things a whole lot better, but no one gave me a handbook on how to be a dad. There was no...
I've read a couple on this shit.
Yeah, and that's the whole thing. But, that's not you though, is it? That handbook was written for that person in particular that wrote it, I suppose, and them
100%.
kids. And I've always said that no one will actually give you a book on how to raise your kids. You raise them how you think, you can do the best for them.
100%. We've spoken a little bit about it before in the past around like footy clubs and just clubs in general. How do you find the club culture has changed as the years have gone on?
Oh, look, from when I first started football, which was back in early 90s, I suppose, that's senior football. Look, it was rough and tough. Like, as in not so much the footy culture at the club or anything, but the football itself was a whole different ball game. We were training 4 nights a week, and as a young fella, you got nothing else to do, so you might as well train. And the guys seem bigger. Like, we often comment now, there's no big men really left in football. Like, every team had 2 or 3 massive men, and they were giants. There doesn't seem to be that bloke out on the ground anymore. There might be 1 or 2, but
Jack's tracking that way though, isn't he? He was that big guy through school.
He was the big guy going through school, but the
I
ball
wouldn't want
blokes,
to meet him in a dark alley, I'll tell you.
he stopped growing though, so it's a bit of a sore point. I hope he doesn't listen to this because I'm not sure he's going to grow either. He sort of was that taller, well-built kid through school, and then things sort of slowed down for him. But it didn't stop his heart. His heart is as big as Far Lap, and for what he lacks in height, I suppose he definitely proves that in other areas of his game, where William probably got my height, and he's not as thick set, but he's a good lump of a kid.
Yeah, I reckon we've touched on some absolute wicked points there, and there'll be plenty to get out of it. I don't know if you've got any more you want to keep spilling.
Oh, look, it's just, for anyone, there's answers out there. I've done a little bit of coaching. I coached under 16 boys for a couple of years and then took them through to under 18. And as every coach does, you have a few dramas with a couple of them. They're probably going down the wrong path. And I got a guy called Will Smith to come and have a talk to him. And it was for the whole club. Like, Will turned up and he was just amazing. Like, you could have, no one breathed while he was even talking. He was that good. And I think it really touched a few points. And one of his points were, you've got, on one hand, you've got 5 fingers and that's about all the mates that you're going to have in your life. Like, and he meant really good mates. And I think every bloke has probably got 1 or 2 who he knows that he can call on. And, not that they're going to sit down and talk it out, in a manner that, it's probably just in blokey style, where, I have a bitch to him and he has a bitch to me, and we walk out the door and tell him to grow up or whatever it be. But deep down, you know yourself that he's probably actually giving you the answer you was looking for in that bit of rubbing that he's done on you.
Yeah. Thanks, mate. It's been a really good chat. As Reece said, there's been a lot of good that's come out of that. And as with every one of these episodes, we want people to sort of come away thinking that, look, it's like a buffet of sort of information, like take what you want and just leave what you don't. That's what we say with this whole thing. If there's been anything for anyone that they've found triggering or anything like that, feel free to contact Lifeline 13 11 14 or reach out to a mate. It's always great to have a yarn to one of your mates, as sort of Stewie mentioned, one of those like top 5 that that will just always be there to listen. Other than that, if you've liked what you've sort of heard on today's podcast, please feel free to give us a like, subscribe to the YouTube channel, and follow us on all the social media platforms. But other than that, thanks very much, Stewie. It's been a pleasure. Thanks, gents, and cheers.
Cheers, Stu.
Thanks, Stewie.